Hello. I have been working up my courage and interest in doing readings in this sort of YouTube online mysterious audience format. And a new method with the I Ching specifically that I have been playing around with is something called a seasonal reading. And this was just born of my own research that there are seasons attributed to the hexagrams. So a quarter of the 64 that you could draw, um, like there's one quarter that's winter, one quarter that's spring, one quarter that's summer, and one quarter that's fall. And so I've divided my own deck into these four stacks of cards that are by the seasons. And I've done this a couple of times for myself and others. And so far, it's been a really fruitful way of contemplating the season and helping me position myself within it. And so the idea being that we are currently in the midst of winter. And so I would draw a card from the winter stack and a card from the spring stack. And that would be sort of like a what sort of winter am I in and what sort of spring am I moving into reading. And then I would draw a card from the summer stack and a card from the fall stack. And the idea being there that winter is the summer of the soul is it's a phrase from a theosophy. And the idea that the internal processes within us are sort of like this inverse of what's happening around us. They sort of mirror each other in that sort of way. And And so the next two cards would be a reading of the internal state of your season, whereas the first two would be a reading of the external state of your season. So here we go. I'm going to go ahead and turn my camera down to my hands here so you can see what I'm going with. This is the winter stack. And I usually kind of close my eyes and just feel where does my hand sort of magnetically draw to. So I have hexagram 45. Gathering. It is the natural order of some things in the world to gather together. This hexagram carries the essence of ancestral knowledge, which is the cumulative wisdom and virtue that exists in the universe. These forces can be harnessed toward a goal when you yourself cultivate virtue in a relationship with them, allowing them to accumulate around you. So that's where we are with winter. And as I draw the spring, what we'll get here is some changing lines to read as well, and sort of a sense of how this works in relationship with your spring hexagram. So here we have gathering. I'll kind of turn it more so it's in a place where you can see it. This is my spring stack here. Closing my eyes, feeling where I feel magnetically drawn. This is 17. Following. Persistence in accordance with the rhythms of nature's clock. The sun has set and it's time to take a rest in peaceful knowing that you have done the work for the day. Success can be found in giving up yourself freely to the way of night and day. We have gathering and we have following for our kind of external winter to spring transition. And now I have my summer stack. Summer, I have great nourisher. Great transformation comes from dutiful study of the wise ones. The accumulated knowledge of humanity comes through the study and veneration of ancestors. The fortitude required in order to push rightly in this situation is that of the magnitude of a mountain, which through a gradual application of discipline and will has reached great heights and weightiness enough to hold down heaven itself. I find it interesting that we have a mirror here, and these are both hexagrams that speak on ancestral knowledge, our external and our internal state, our winter and our summer of the soul, um, are according with each other pretty well here. That's interesting to me. Okay, and now we have our fall stack. Closing my eyes. $33. Retreat. The path to success is withdrawal from a perilous situation. Retreat is vital if you are to remain whole. In this way, you are protected from your own weakness and able to remain devoted to your virtuous intentions. Do not let your ego mislead you. I find it very interesting here that our summer to fall transitions are both heaven and earth. Earth and heaven, earth and heaven. So it's just a matter of which is on top. And that takes us from great nourisher to retreat. I'm very curious to see where the lines give us information on what that is telling us about our internal state. Okay. So just quickly looking without reading any texts yet. We have here water over the world. And then we have here water over fire. So we have this watery winter to spring transition going on, where it's sort of this water just accumulating into a very meaningful, wise pool of ancestral knowledge here. And then we have the sun setting over that water here. And what that kind of tells me, just at an elemental level, the sun is attributed to clarity, and the sun here is fire, though. So we have fire represented as the sun setting beneath this water. So it is underneath the water, sort of warming it. And really, water and fire eliminate one another. So that fire warms the water, and the water sort of eliminates all of the unstable properties of fire. So it really does just get to be that warming aspect and not the destructive aspect, or the sort of unpredictable spreading aspect, right? We have a very intentional boil, kind of coming to a boil sort of concept happening here. If we're just looking at the elements and bringing meaning to how they're working together. If I go into my texts here on these hexagrams, so what lines are changing? The only line changing here for this is the bottom line, the very first line. So we have the same top element, water. We have two broken lines, and then this one's broken and this one's solid. So we know that's the one that's changing. And I'm just going to read that one for us. That will be our central line. So also for gatherings, I'm just going to read the advice to the superior individual. The superior individual is armed to prepare against the unforeseen. Interesting. Okay. Line 1. Sincerity falters. Confusion. Wrong gathering with inappropriate people. And dispersion results. crying, but a friendly hand brings laughter. Advance. What this tells me is that whoever this reading is for out there in the algorithm verse, that you are really dealing with a winter of struggling to find the appropriate way to feed that pool of ancestral knowledge. Um, you're filling yourself with emotional, social connections that are not nourishment for you. So we have here the great nourisher. And that is what your soul needs right now. So externally, you're struggling to feed this aspect of your soul. And so the advice is to correct how those gatherings, where those connections are coming from, to find virtuous and nourishing and fulfilling sources of social and emotional fulfillment, that bring you to a place of solid, secure, wise, sort of this position of steadiness here. And so that's my first clue on this seasonal reading for those of you that have this has sort of drawn itself to, or it's sort of magnetizing towards you. And then I'm going to go ahead and look next at for a little more clue here on Great Nourisher. So with this one, we have potentially a lot of changing lines. So our internal state, we have those bottom two lines are changing. 1 and 2, and 4 and 5 are changing. So 1, 2, 4, and 5, which actually puts us in this position of retreat as our central hexagram for our internal state. And that makes it so that we're going to go ahead and read lines 3 and 6 on this card. Four changing lines means we're over here. We have moved past this place. This is a place we have been kind of dealing with, but we've already moved into this place here, which I think is going to be promising. So hexagram 33, what do the lines tell us? Hidden under the clouds. The advice to the superior individual here is the superior withdraws to a solitary place when things are unfavorable by keeping distance from lesser people, thus avoiding the need to express wrath. Dignity is preserved. That 100% confirms my intuitive interpretation. Your actual best course of action, and maybe you've already begun to do this, is to withdraw from those gatherings that were not sustaining you, that were not feeding you the nourishment that you needed, that didn't help you to feel at rest in that sort of sunset, peaceful time of day. And so you're moving towards this peace and following here, and you're doing it through this retreat from those gatherings, from those people, those connections, those sources. It may not be actual people. It may be maybe stuff that's in your feed. You may be getting really unhelpful feed from social media, from the news. There could be any sorts of things that you're accumulating around you that are not that sort of wisdom and virtue that fills you. And so you've begun already, based on this reading, I can tell you've already begun to retreat from whatever that is. And you can look forward to in your spring this more restful sort of place. Let's go ahead and read the line 3 and 6 here. So line 3 says, he is reluctant to give up for the sake of his subordinates. Woe, danger, exhaustion, illness are the result, but there is luck for those who care for their servants. So there is a hesitance for you in this retreat. You're really having a hard time. Maybe you're moving in that direction. You're aware that you need to retreat, but you're feeling it as something that's difficult for you. You're having a or at least you have, at least at first, had this very hard push to get past that reluctance to give up what was not feeding you in this season. Line 6, he retreats with ample time, getting away completely and with ease. All right, so that means there's still time. You're still you're still pushing through, and that this truly is your best course of action is to retreat from these sources here and to in order to get to your peace here in this one. That rhythm, that sunset, that peaceful rest of knowing that your work is done for the day, that you have accomplished the good things. And the work here is capitalized. It is the spiritual work that you are accomplishing when you make this change in your life. Thank you all for going with me on this journey for a seasonal reading. I hope to be able to do more of these for others.